our 50-cent no limit, 100% VPIP on the button. And if you haven't seen part 1, I suggest that you go back and watch that, because there are a lot of reads that we've picked up already, and they're pretty crucial to part 2 of this video. So if you haven't seen it, go watch that, and if you have, let's dive in. We kind of started in the middle of this hand, but it was really just Tom betting 3 streets, if I recall correctly. And we pick up 4-7 suited on the button. And I'm just making a note about him 3xing King Jack off from the hand that happened last part of the video. And I thought about 3-betting here with the 4-7, but because our hand flops a little bit better than the 5-9 suited that we had in part 1, and because Tom's still left to act, I felt like it was a pretty good spot to take a flop potentially 3-way. And with 6-4, we're just going to raise to isolate. And so this is a pretty decent flop for us, and it checks to us, and I don't think Tom's going to be folding very often. And he obliges and check calls, and his range is pretty much anything, really. And so I am continuing to bet big. He's not going to fold any 4. He's probably not folding any pair, really. So so I bet pretty big, and he folds. And sorry about the coughing. I do still have a cold, and if it gets to be too much, I'm sorry in advance, but I warned you, so ha. And I flat ace-queen pre-flop against Mark Mind. I don't really want to get it in for 50 big blinds, and I feel like we're going to have him dominated a lot of the time when we hit a pair. So I just decide to flat, and he checks, and we bet. And he check min raises us, and I'm not folding. And so we turn the nuts, and at the same time, Tom bets 2 into 7-15. In the last video, if you recall, he was betting like 1/4 pot when he had a hand that he considered a value hand. So because of that, like if he would have bet 5 here, I would consider raising. But since he bet 2, like I'm pretty certain that he has a big hand here. And I check the ace-queen because I want to continue to rep something like 7s. And you see that Tom called the min raise. And here with the ace-queen, he's only got 11 behind. But at the same time, I thought he had, Aaron wasn't calling a raise unless he had a 6 or we were chopping. It was probably a mistake on my part to not shove here. But I decided to flat, mostly because I wanted to see what he was min-raising on the flop. And you see that Tom did have a king when he bet his 4th pot. And we lost value against top set. Well, flop top set. And I felt immediately after I flatted that it was a mistake and I should have shoved. But I did want to see what he was min-raising the flop with, and I didn't think that he was very strong at all. And here I was looking for a hand, I forget which one. I think it was the hand when Tom had queen 2, because I wanted to see what his bet sizing was, just to verify. And I couldn't find it, but I found it later, and it was the same bet size when he had top pair. And I just go ahead and fold the 7s here. If Greedy didn't call, I was going to call because Tom half-potted, and I felt like that was a little bit too big for his value hands. And so he bets pretty big. I think that says 6. And Greedy Genius just folds. And like we thought, he did have air. And you can see that I messed up when I was typing my notes. But it is good to note when people base their bet sizes on their hand strength. And making a note that says that bet sizes are dependent on their hand is good, but you want to make sure that you know which is his real hand and which is his bluffs. Because if he shows up at the table a couple weeks from now and I see that, I'm not really going to be sure if his big bets are going to be bluffs or made hands. So just making a note with smaller equals hand is going to accomplish a lot more than just saying bet sizes are relative to his hand strength. And I defend with the ace-8 off against Greedy Genius. I don't feel like shoving is good because he has a little bit too much of a stack. But we don't flop anything, and I just decide to give it up. And with the ace-8 here on table 2, I debate raising, but I wouldn't want to get shoved into by either of the shorter stacks, so I decided to just check and see a free flop. And we flop an open-ended draw on a pretty connected board. Not to interrupt that hand, but it's pretty dull of a hand. But we have Queen 6 off here, and we're not folding because we remembered that we're playing 100% VPIP on the button, and we didn't automatically fold. So because of that, we don't want to flat because Tom's going to come along no matter what we do if we flat. And so we want to 3-bet to shut Tom out because we don't have a hand that's going to play well multi-way and we just want to take it down here. So we decided to 3-bet and we just call with the ace-8. I don't feel like either of these people are going to raise, so we just decide to flat and see a turn. And so I like Kitty's calls pretty quickly and then checks again pretty quickly. And so we just decide, I think we decide to check because we're not getting 3 streets and we want to continue to rep a hand like 10s or ace-king, something like that. And once he checks twice, I think we just have to go ahead and bet. And I just bet a little less than half pot, or a little more than half pot, sorry. And he folds, so we got a little lucky to flop top pair there, but I think he's folding to the 3-bet a lot of the time. And you see on the right table that Mark Mind won that hand with ace-6. So I wanted to make a note that he was going to lead a hand as weak as bottom pair in a 4-way limped pot. And so I make a note about that, just so if he does limp, we can start calling with second pair and betting the turn when he checks to us, and we can get a little bit more value that way. And with the king 9 here, I just fold, I think, because I saw that TJ limped under the gun. I figured he might be check shoving or limp shoving, so I just decided to fold. I know I was playing 100%, but once Baby Ryan raised, I just felt like it was a pretty smart decision to fold. I could have called there, but again, I think if I call TJ plus